everyone and welcome back to Rift News, the show that serves you all the League news while you migrate to Fortnite. It's been a while since we've done an episode of news because we had some other content to cover. But now that we're back, let's go through everything we missed. First of all, the teaser for Irelia and later Irelia herself appeared on PBE. She was turned into a classic blade dancer, only more chaotic and a lot more interesting to handle. But for us lore nerds, we are more interested in the story. Well, as of right now, we don't have any story yet. But that will change next week, if Riot is holding up to their story releases 2 weeks after PBE release. So far they were pretty good at following this schedule, so we will see. I still want to mention some of the things found in her teaser. First of all, yes, if you look close enough you can see Riven. We know it is her because her ruined blade was crafted specifically for her to be light, and she broke it later on. You can also find a character very closely resembling Yi, and I would even go as far as to confirm that this is actually Master Yi. At this time, Wukong wasn't even with him. He was part of this war, and most importantly, why would Riot create such a uniquely looking character if he wasn't special? He even reappears in this teaser multiple times. So yes, I would say this is Yi. Some people are also mentioning that the person on the left side could be Yasuo. I don't think that is possible though, but it could be Yasuo's brother Yone. Yone wasn't there when Yasuo left his master. And on top of that, since it is still likely that Riven was the one who killed the master, Riven and Yasuo couldn't have met in a battle, since the master was killed without Yasuo even knowing it. On the right side you can also see someone in a pose resembling Shen. By the time this war happened, Shen was already the Eye of Twilight, so it might not actually be him, but there is no confirmation. However, it was confirmed in Irelia's interactions, which can be seen on the Skin Spotlight channel, that Xin Zhao is an Ionian soldier fighting in the ranks of Demacia, so it is possible that one of these soldiers is him too. The last worthy character here is the soldier without weapons on the right side. It is definitely possible that this could be Lee Sin. All the stories we know happen after this invasion, so maybe he actually was there too. But that would be just a blind guess, no pun intended. This teaser also showed us one major plot twist. At the beginning you can see ravens following the Noxian fleet. Normally people would think that they are just following Swain, but by the time this story happened, Swain didn't even come in contact with the demon. So it seems like the presence of the demon was either following Swain, because it sensed the power in him, or it just follows all Noxian warbands, as if they were corrupted by it. Either way, we know that some kind of pre-planning has happened on the demon side. Side note, some people pointed out that this guy could have been Singed, but I believe that Singed wasn't physically part of the invasion. He was an insider acting from Zone. And while we're talking about Irelia, I need to mention all the content released with her. Her login music is perfect. This is the first time we got a good taste of a music theme based on the Ionian ancient culture. If you listen closely, you can also hear the traditional flute played by Yasuo. Since Irelia is getting a brand new model with new animations, her skins had to be reworked too. What's so special about them is that some of them have unique quotes, and they now have unique recoil animations. You can tell that Riot put a lot of effort into reworking her, and so far it seems to be on the biggest scale yet. And while we're talking about skins, we got a lot more to talk about. Besides Hextech Alistar, Pizza Delivery Siver and Birdio, we got 2 new skins on PBE. Lancer Stratus Wukong, which at first I thought was yet another ghostly skin, but then I realized it looks more like the mecha theme, which is not bad honestly. But we also got one of my favorite skins in quite a while, Badlands Baron Rumble. Not only is this skin for Rumble, but it is based on Mad Max. The model is just incredibly high quality, and I am seriously impressed by it. The only problem right now are the sound effects. It does feel unfinished, so things may still change, but I would love to see some filters on Rumble's voice. Besides these 2 new skins, I can mention that Sun Goddess Misfortune is now out on live servers. Her login screen can now be seen when you log in, and she even got her own anime style trailer. There is a little bit of lore behind the skin, but we will talk about that another time. The last piece of news from PBE is that we're getting 3 new emotes. Deal with Grit, Everything is Okay, and Lil Camper. On Nexus, Riot released 3 new posts. Let's start with a post talking about matchmaking. It is focused on how the entire system works and what are its priorities. League's matchmaking is balanced around 3 points: creating fair matches, where appropriate players get their primary roles, and maintaining short queues. Riot spent the last 2 years developing and improving this system, and in this post they will share what they learned. One note, this post is focused on position select and queue times, since the entire last year was focused on consistent fair matches. So let's start with position select. When the new matchmaking launched in 2016, Riot had to add in autofill to help its rocky start. Autofill massively cut down queue times, but players reported that they got autofilled too often. You have to remember that every time a feature is implemented in matchmaking, something else has to be sacrificed. So Riot had to look at their other sources if they wanted to reduce autofill. Here are the position rates between 2016 and 2018. At point A, Riot implemented longer waiting times in exchange for nearly guaranteed primary position. At point B, autofill was introduced for all players. At point C, they launched special config change for primary positions. At point D, they experimented with different versions of autofill to get the best results. At E, they launched the kidnapping algorithm. This changed the way teams were formed. From the name, we can assume that if one team had 2 mid laners, one of them would be dragged into a brand new team. And the last change at F, here they used some more tweaks to make sure you get your primary role. So far the goal is to keep the primary role at 90%. This is regardless of your position. The main issue they had to deal with during all these experiments were the secondary roles. If you picked mid as primary and support as secondary, you would get mid in about 1 out of every 10 games. And that didn't feel very primary. Riot was working on resolving this issue since early 2016, and they realized that position combination matters heavily. Being primary mid lane and secondary support was the worst combination to pick for primary roles. Here we have some statistics as well. This graph is specifically for mid and support combinations. At A, the first version of Champ Select was launched. Players quickly realized that support is nearly guaranteed as a secondary role, so the quality of matchmaking went down. At B, they used some improvements to the system, but eventually, players figured out how to play around it again. At C, autofill was launched and more players got support. At point D, a config helped the primary role pass the secondary for the first time. At E, they launched more experiments. F is where Xayah and Rakan were released. This impacted support lane as more premates took the role away from mid laners. At G, they released a config change for autofill. At H came the kidnapping algorithm. At I, Zoe was released, which meant more mid laners and less primary picks. And J is where we are now. This graph shows us how frequent changes to the matchmaking are. But all of this was followed along by queue times and something called time to game. Time to game is the time between you pressing find match and you eventually loading up the game. So this includes champion select as well. Here we have a graph of the champion select duration. You can see that they were able to reduce it by about 2 minutes. At A, they changed the 6 alternating bans to 10 bans at the same time. And at B, they made picking part of what happens right after you ban. They also made some visual improvements to let you know that you're supposed to do something. The overall queue time was affected by 6 different steps. At first they launched their own operational optimization. Then at B they fixed issues with dodging getting people stuck in matchmaking. At C there was a test of a new kind of kidnapping system. At D they reversed the changes to see the impact. At E they optimized hardware setup for faster queue pops. And at F they fixed the old kidnapping algorithm. With all of this data, here's what's planned for experimentation in 2018. They will try to get queues down to 20 to 30 seconds for everyone without sacrificing other factors. They will also try to deal with smurfs and noobs. Sometimes the system needs to recognize them, and there certainly could be some improvements. And lastly, they want to look into new ways of dealing with autofill and challenge in games. Being out of your comfort zone is often a good way to challenge ranked players, but there is a risk of creating possible exploits. After this data-filled post, we got two lighter ones. There is a post about development of Kaisa. It contains a lot of information about how the champion turned into what she is. Especially if you are into concept art and potential champion routes, you will love this post. Just have a look at this picture exploring the concepts of X-Purifier, a vampire, and a human bonded with a void virus. It also contains some funny sound files that made it into the game. And speaking of sound files, the other post is all about music. At the very end of this post you have music sheets for some of Riot's releases. We have Lulu and Shaco, Elementalist Lux, Yasuo vs Riven, and Mortal Reminder by Pentakill. But before those, this post reveals some interesting facts about two of their login screens. Let's try something. Let me play an isolated instrument and you try to guess what champion it is. These were the drums of Zone used for Echo. It is an instrument the sound engineers made with stuff they bought in a hardware store. Now let me play the instrument from the second login screen. This is the sound of an Enklang, and with a lot of filtering and effort, this was the bass for Ivern. This post gives some very interesting view on sound engineering, so I highly recommend checking it out. And with that, that's pretty much it for the news. So if you enjoyed it, feel free to rate the video and subscribe for more news and lore. You can also follow us on Twitter, Facebook and Discord if you'd like to chat. We are streaming as often as possible, so check out our Twitch too. Links to our merch and P.O.Box will be in the description. Of course, massive shout out to our patrons for going the extra mile. You guys are amazing. And with that, thank you all so much for being here and for your support. You know I really appreciate it. And as always, thank you again.